And so we find ourselves back in the summer of 2004. After the better part of half an hour of questioning, the overly austere customs officers seemed to declare me simply too weird to be a threat, and seeing as I had ticked the "I'm not a terrorist" box on my visa, they allowed me on my way. They must catch so many terrorists that way. Having dodged imprisonment at customs, I decided to celebrate with an act of minor civil disobedience. As I was finally in one of the few places in the world that would still legitimately let me indulge on my guilty pleasures of underage drinking, I headed straight for the nearest bar. I have to say, of all the countries I've ever visited, America has given me the most culture shock. Everything I'd heard about America on TV over the years, but had taken with a pinch of salt, was suddenly revealed to be true. I was astounded. The cars really are that big. The traffic police really are that overzealous. And they really do that nonchalant swagger up to the car window when they pull you over. And just as British culture these days is largely based on binge drinking, casual violence and tea, American culture really does seem to be centered around fast cars, fast food and guns. Truly very strange. Admittedly, the culture shock probably wasn't helped by the fact that instead of ending up at Africon, I got stuck at a prior engagement with a somewhat eccentric old friend who, despite having retired, still manages to be a professional mad scientist. Neural reconfiguration enhancement through photonic retinal stimulation. Some truly fascinating and impressive work. It really was a pleasure to work with him. The man's a raving genius, and a bit of a hippie too. Unfortunately, he'd neglected to mention that he lives in a small redneck town in the middle of nowhere, Florida, nicely situated less than 2 miles from reputed Ku Klux Klan territory, and was married to a devout evangelical Christian. The phrase, "you've got to be fucking kidding," kept playing over and over in my head throughout the course of the 2 weeks. But I made the best of it. My work with the good doctor was certainly fun, and I made the best of the rest of my time, mostly drinking and hanging around with a thoroughly nice chap called Joel. We ate an astonishingly large amount of barbecue food, and just generally taking in the whole redneck experience. It was on one such afternoon of drinking, Joel and I found ourselves in a biker bar just outside of town. And it was all going well until we reached that stage of the evening. The stage where you lean over the bar and slur to the lady, "What's the nastiest drink you sell here?" For some reason, the entire bar suddenly became fascinated with my accent, and it kind of gets a bit hazy from there on in. At one point, I spent a long time discussing war, travel, quantum physics, and Zen Buddhism with a particularly nasty-looking group of bikers. Rounds bought for the entire bar, spirits down by the bottle. At one point, the entire bar even sang the Pirates song together. By 2 a.m., the tab was well into 4 figures, but the barmaid was astonishingly kind enough not only to void the entire tab in exchange for my autograph on her breasts and a kiss, but she gave us free t-shirts and a case of beer for our trouble. It's such a tough life, isn't it? Good evening. It has been far too long. We've missed you. But did I not tell you that I would be back? And now I am, back as the show's international correspondent, after a fashion. So, for this first week, my job was made exceptionally easier with the somewhat ghoulish announcement of Saddam's death sentence. Not that any of us failed to see this one coming from the onset, but it's always of interest to see the curtain fall on yet another act in the perpetual puppet show that is Mesopotamia's bloody Machiavellian history. World opinion is divided on the justification of his sentence. After all, Saddam is far from the worst dictator to ever stand trial, but he has been given a sentence far more severe than the likes of Napoleon or Pol Pot. Nor is he even the first in modern times to bomb, gas, torture, and terrorize the civilian population of Iraq. That dubious honor must go to our very own Winston Churchill back in 1917. And now he is venerated as one of our great heroes. Whether Saddam or any other dictator truly deserves the death sentence is a matter that will continue to be debated for centuries to come. But, as Goering once pointed out, the victors will always be the judge and the vanquished the accused. But in his final days, it will come as some small comfort to Saddam to know that the worries displayed in the decor of his palaces, those grand monuments to masculine insecurity, will no longer be a problem. If nothing else, history will always remember him as being well hung. That is all from me this week. It truly is a pleasure to be back. Welcome back to more international news. In England last week, the Queen made her usual speeches as she officially opened the new session of Parliament. Although the government is due to discuss such topics as violent pornography, rape and bestiality, the Queen declined to speak of such things, much to the surprise of some. But she did take the time to outline the government's plans to further their voyeuristic, domineering desires to force yet more of the populace into pitiful subservience. After all, the wicked and sinful must be punished. But in other pleasant news, the commanders of the current Miss Israel have allowed her to complete her military service without the need of carrying her assault rifle. As I'm sure many of you appreciate, the discomfort and trouble that comes from having a mighty weapon swinging pendulously around your thighs. One may only hope that this radiant and deadly beauty will set an example to other such gorgeous warriors, lay down their arms, and truly make love and not war. That is all from the International Office for now. I'll see you soon, Mr. Griffin. So, 2006 is finally over. Thank fuck. The year really has been quite the annus horribilis. Far too many funerals and far too much heartbreak for my liking. But, at least as a goth, my wardrobe was more than up to the challenge. In the world at large, the year has managed to fill itself with a truly impressive level of insanity and stupidity. The London Furs managed the previously impossible feat of actually organising an event. The England cricket team, in a radical break from tradition, actually won something for once, although we are working to address that right now. Don't worry, we will lose this tournament again. America's preemptive defense of democracy managed to sentence Saddam to death while former Chilean dictator General Pinochet died peacefully of natural causes. And of course, Fidel Castro is still alive and kicking. Apparently the US master plan for this war simply is to outlive all the enemy. Really way to go there, guys. Keep up the good work. Some of Hitler's old paintings went up for auction this year, which would serve as a reminder to all of us not to screw over any artists we commission. You never know when it might lead to outright genocide. But on the continuing theme of insanity, 2006 was rich in the kind of revelations that make any right-minded person despair at the world. We found out that the terrifying former Nazi Pope Benedict XVI likes to wear red Prada shoes under his robes. It's not just the devil that likes to wear Prada, it turns out. This year, the suicide rate in the UK reached an all-time low. But at the same time, sales of gay porn and sex toys has never been higher. I'll let you draw your own conclusions from that. But perhaps the most vexing revelation of the past 12 months has been the discovery here in England that during the last election, the Conservative Party spent nearly £1,500 on fursuits. Compared to the Labour Party's mere £300 on Star Trek uniforms, it's quite shocking. You really do have to wonder just what kind of weird, kinky, Trekkie fursuit sex is going on in Westminster. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to end 2006 the way I lived most of it, completely and utterly rat-arsed. The year is finally over, so remember, eat, drink and be merry. For tomorrow we have to do it all over again. Happy New Year. The whole bally lot of you.